morning, Benita.
Good morning, Lo. How are you?
I am fantastic. This is Benita Patel from Benita Patel Photography.
Thank you so much for having me here.
I'm so excited that you're here for our first cocktails and questions. We are going to mix up a potential signature drink for your event, and then I'm going to dive into some questions to help all of our girl boss brides out there understand your photography world a little bit better and really help empower them so that when they're making their phone calls and chatting with their potential photographer, they know all the questions to ask to get the best in the biz.
Perfect.
All right, so for you, my darling, in your gorgeous floral dress, we are going to make the Daisy, which is a vintage cocktail that was originated out of the Savoy Hotel in London. It's a little rum base, so you want to get your favorite dark rum.
Look at that bottle.
Oh, isn't it gorgeous? And it has a little...
Beautiful.
A little like Buddha, which I think is good luck for the day.
Absolutely.
So, it's a little early to be drinking, but hey, all in the spirit of research, right? So the recipe for this is going to be up on the Girl Boss Bride Facebook page, but we're going to do 2 ounces of a good dark rum.
Oh, I can smell it. It smells really good.
Don't skimp on whatever the most potent ingredient is in your cocktail. Like, make sure that that's really great, and then you can skimp on some of these.
Because you want to pack that punch.
Exactly. Yeah. Pack the punch. If you got to skimp somewhere, skimp. Like, this is Bacardi. We're only doing 1/4 of the amount of that. And then we're going to do 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, a little grenadine. Yummy. So, and then we're going to shake this all up.
I can already smell the cocktail in the air.
Put some, shake it. Get your little arm workout on this morning. Doing it all.
I love that shaker too. Look at that.
Cute. A vintage guy. All for...
Yeah, I'll grab this one for you.
Thank you. A little taste test.
Yeah, let's see what we got here. Perfect. Well, cheers.
Cocktails and questions. Here we go.
Oh, yum. Ooh. And I can taste it. You said use, your most potent ingredient.
Yeah. This would be really great if you were doing almost like a luau kind of,
like an outdoor summery. Yeah, I can feel summer in the air already. Well, cheers, honey.
Cheers. All right, my darling, let's dive in.
Yeah.
So photography. I find that with couples that we're working with, photography is the first thing that they feel like they need to cross off the list right away. And I'm trying to prevent couples out there from just blanket emailing at 11 o'clock at night, 25 photographers that they found on Wedding Wire, and just kind of generically asking for their pricing and their availability, because you want it to be a relationship. Like, I think it's so important between photography and couple that there's a real kind of connection there, because you're there for their most intimate parts of the whole day. Like, they're naked, they're getting their dress on.
Well, and that's what and that's what I tell every bride in particular, is that you'll spend more time with me on the wedding day than you will with the person you're marrying. 100%. So if you and I don't get along, it's going to be a little bit of a tricky situation.
Completely. So what questions would you say couples should be asking, like the top 3, when they're first talking to a photographer? Like, if you get an email and there's these 3 questions, what makes you super excited of like, oh, this is the kind of couple that I want to work with. This is going to be a great day. Right.
Well, I feel that oftentimes in the initial inquiry, rather than questions, I get a lot of information like, hi, we're getting married on this date at this venue. And, they're just kind of giving me what they already know about their day, which is super helpful. Understanding right off the bat, is this a summer wedding? Is it a winter wedding? Is it a hotel wedding? Is it an outdoor rustic wedding? Even something as basic and simple as that, just giving me a location and a time of year helps me understand, okay, well, what kind of wedding are we talking about? Are we talking about a winter wedding in the city? Are we talking about a summer wedding outdoors somewhere? So that's just a great piece of information to have right off the bat. I also love kind of hearing about how they perhaps found me or came across my name. That tells me a little bit about their thought process. Are they, again, like you said, just kind of blanket emailing a whole bunch of people, which, is not uncommon, because for so many women and so many brides and just so many couples, it's like, where do you start? So it is a very common thing, but if you can give me more information about, well, how did you find me? Did Lo refer me, or did a planner refer me, or did you come through the venue, or did you just kind of stumble upon my page and fall in love with what you saw? So one of the other things that I always kind of encourage during the inquiry process is, finding a way to at least communicate on the phone or meeting up in person.
Absolutely.
I mean, some of the basic information that you receive in an email is wonderful, just to kind of give you an understanding of, okay, where's the wedding, what's sort of important to them and things like that. But a phone conversation just kind of gives you a little bit more insight into how their day's gonna flow. And it allows you, I think, or at least me, the opportunity to kind of interject and say, okay, great, well, based on how you're structuring your day or how you think you want your day to flow, let's talk about the photography aspect specifically based on your day. So I don't like to give generic cookie cutter answers to anybody, because no 2 days really are the same.
So true. And I'm sure, are you happy to do a video conference? That's my
Oh, absolutely.
video chat
Absolutely.
right now.
Yep.
Don't be afraid to ask anyone that you're thinking about hiring and bringing onto your dream team to jump on a quick Google Hangout or a
Absolutely.
Skype call. That can be an invaluable kind of test of if it's going to be a good relationship.
Right. And I think, a conversation, like you said, on Skype or on the phone, or ideally even in person, I think tests your chemistry too right off the bat.
100%.
So, like you can tell from any phone conversation if you're going to get along with somebody or if you guys kind of click. So I think that's just an added value in having that one-on-one conversation.
So smart. So next, probably the most polarizing question of photography. Are you for or against a first look on a wedding day?
I personally am always for the first look. So for my couples that are on the fence about a first look, what I often say to them is, when you guys see each other for the first time during the day, whether it be prior to the ceremony or as one person's walking down the aisle, you're going to have this amazing burst of emotions. They're going to be there no matter what setting it's sort of taking place in. So if we can kind of have an opportunity to capture those emotions privately before the ceremony, and you can really just kind of like embrace each other and enjoy each other's company and really kind of take in that moment, I think that's just, I don't know, I just think that's just so valuable. It's just such a lovely piece to document.
I'm getting chills just now talking about it, because I love those couple shots. They're so romantic, and it really is kind of that one moment in time where I don't think either person is ever going to have those exact same emotions
Right.
or reactions again. So to have that documented and to really carve out the time for it, I
Right.
think that's where, when I'm looking at an event timeline for the day, I never want those couple shots to feel like that's what's getting compromised.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
sometimes if you wait to do them until after the ceremony, you want to go to cocktail hour. Your mom is in your ear that you need to say hello to.
Well, the day's just
It's
rolling, right? The day is
at that
rolling, and
point.
it's like, yeah.
So I feel like when you do that first look, you can kind of freeze that moment in time
Absolutely.
and enjoy it on a personal level, and then capture it for the rest of your life.
Absolutely. And again, as a couple, if there are any photos from the entire day from start to finish that ultimately you'll choose to put in a frame and keep in your home, which ones are they going to be? They're going to be the ones of you and the person that you're getting married to. So to carve out that time in the morning or prior to the ceremony, I think it's just so nice. And like you said, the day just starts rolling and it becomes kind of a blur. Every person that we've worked with that's gotten married, what do they say at the end of the day? Like, oh my goodness, the day flew by. It was just such a blur. So to have that moment, just the two of you, where it's like time almost stands still for you guys for just a little bit, I think it's just nice to enjoy each other's company. And I think anxiety and butterflies and nervousness, those are all very, I think, common feelings for anybody who's getting married. And what better than to see the one person who keeps you calm and that you love and sort of puts you at ease, your rock, exactly. What better than to see that person before sort of the ball starts rolling, right, for the day.
And I also love if there is a special place. Here in Boston, people love to have photos in the garden, or we've had couples who are equestrians and want to have their shots near their horse or near a horse
Right.
if they are getting married in a more rustic setting. And I find it so much easier to move just the couple to get that special location
absolutely.
as opposed to the whole
Whole
wedding
group.
party or the whole family. Like that's just where in my mind, like time is just flying
Right.
off of the paper
Right.
because it just takes orchestration to get people
Right.
from point A to point B. So as you're thinking about your day and if you have a specific backdrop in mind, kind of keep that for the couple, and there you can jump in an Uber.
Right.
You can arrange for transportation
Right.
for the two of you and the photographer and videographer and make that happen.
Well, I think you bring up a really good point because, as much as this is a beautiful, beautiful day and, I'm in it and you're in it and there's so many other people that are part of the dream team that are there to make the day beautiful and special. I think as service providers, at least from my perspective, I consider myself somebody who really just needs to understand the logistics. I mean, yes, it's beautiful, and yes, we want to make it magical, but it's our job also just to kind of make sure that we're moving along in a logical manner, that we're kind of keeping things on track and on time. And are we kind of taking our own responsibility in our own pieces to do things in the most effective way?
Perfect. So that brings me, because, I am like logistical manager for the day for our couples, the shot list. So
Yes.
I find that there is such a diverse amount of information out there. Like when you Google your wedding formal shot list, there are some articles that will give you a shot list that is a mile long. It's like, get the photo of you kissing, get the photo of the recessional. Like when you are working with an amazing photographer, things like that are prerequisites. Like you are
Right.
absolutely
I
going
agree.
to capture those key moments. I'd be interested in, when you're working with a couple, what kind of shots do you want to get from them that are really important, and how do you kind of maximize that time of formal shots,
Right.
and then get people onto the party? Because I would say that's one of the biggest pieces of feedback that I get from couples, is they just can't believe how long that takes.
Right.
So how do you kind of set
Right.
them up for success where they're getting what they really need for their album or for prints that they're going to frame down the line, but that you're also maximizing the experience of the day and that no one's getting fatigued
Right.
before the party's even started?
Well, I think the number one key, at least from my perspective, is good preparation. Having those conversations with the couple well in advance about, what do you understand? What do you know about your timeline? If there's an awesome planner like you in the mix, it's like, yay. It's like, I know I'm going to get a perfect timeline well in advance. And then that way I can kind of almost superimpose my timeline from a photography perspective on top of that. So in the morning, I want to get those beautiful pictures of the dress and the shoes and, mom helping you zip up the gown. And, and those are the kinds of images that my brides are expecting me to get as well. So
And those don't need to be on your shot list because you're going to get them. Like, do not put a shot of my wedding gown on your wedding shot list, because if you need to tell a photographer that, you shouldn't have hired that photographer
my
in the first place. Let's just cover that base.
Right. So, again, my role really is to make sure that, okay, let me understand, what time do you want your ceremony to start? And I kind of work backwards from there, honestly. If the ceremony's at 4:00 in the afternoon, well, then I know that family pictures and any portraits of the couple and things like that need to be wrapped up by 3:30, so that we have just a little bit of a buffer and the bride wants a few minutes to freshen up, or, just get her veil in. Sometimes they don't want the veil for the pictures and things like that. So I kind of tend to work backwards from the ceremony, and that kind of determines my start time. And I know how much time I need to get those beautiful pictures of the dress and the shoes and the bride getting ready. Sometimes if you've never done this before, obviously you don't have an understanding of the fact that as a photographer, I like to have about 1 hour to get those pictures. And then maybe if we do the first look, hopefully right after that, I want to pencil in an hour for the first look, because it's logistics. Again, like, you're getting out of your suite, you're walking down to wherever that first look is. Those are all minutes. In my mind, it just kind of becomes like a little bit of a game about minutes. Like, how do we just kind of track the minutes?
It's not uncommon to have 2 hours, 2.5 hours
Right.
of photography before your ceremony, which couples don't always
Right.
think about.
Right.
And I think for me, when I see those formal shots before the ceremony, even after, if that's when you're doing them during cocktail hour. I like couples to think about them really as what groupings do you envision wanting in the album, or that you would frame in that way after the fact. And it really does get to a pretty core group if you think about it
Absolutely.
that way. I know like, I have aunts and uncles that are very dear to me. A lot of people do. But once you get into that extended family, I find that almost the memorable moments with them are during the reception. It's you dancing with your uncle. It's you having a moment with your cousins, whether it's a toast that they're giving or a dance that your family does at every wedding. Like that's the memory, not your 10 cousins lined up in a formal
And then
setting.
that's my job too, though, right? That's my job. Is to kind of just survey who's keeping themselves close to the bride and groom throughout the day. And even if they weren't on like a formal list where, you know, we did some formal portraits with them, it's my job to know, okay, well, you know, maybe a distant uncle didn't make the list, but let me just try to keep an eye on him when they're dancing and, you know, try to get that shot.
And I like to, and this is something that you should absolutely think about communicating to your photographer. If you do have those people who weren't in your formals but are important to you, note what table you've assigned them to. Not that you're going to do a table shot like we did in the 80s and 90s, but if you know where that person is seated, then to your point, you can keep an eye on them. You kind of have an idea as to who they are.
And then it becomes my responsibility and not the bride and the groom's, because they're there to enjoy the day.
Exactly. So I think a lot of those happen organically, and you'll be grateful that you allowed them to happen organically, I think.
Absolutely.
One thing that we spend a lot of time talking about in the Girl Boss Bride course is just Pinterest overwhelm.
Yes.
Yes. We all know it very well. Pinterest is such an amazing resource, but I find that there's almost too much inspiration there for one couple to squeeze into one day. And I think that that absolutely translates to photography, especially for some of those getting ready shots. There's a lot of really sweet bridesmaids or people jumping on the bed, or kind of your tribe with their robes on in a specific way. And I do think that those are memorable moments, but to me that is a step further than photography. That's almost art directing a day more than kind of capturing it unto itself. So how do you work with couples to make sure that they're getting what they want out of those moments, but that it doesn't feel overly contrived? Right.
I think that's a great point. You know, we do live in sort of that Pinterest saturated world right now. And especially as a photographer or somebody who's focused on the visual, I do always try to respect where a couple is coming from when they're sort of sharing some of those types of images with me. You know, it's like the dress was hung this way and it was captured this way, or the rings were shot this way, or, you know, just a certain pose or something like that of the couple. I always try to respect where that's kind of coming from. And more so than the actual shot, what I always ask a bride or a groom or a couple is, you know, why were you drawn to this image? Is it the actual way that you're seeing things produced in the image, or is there some sort of feeling that it evokes? And typically it's the latter, to be honest with you. Typically it's the latter. So any couple who works with me, or any couple that works with anybody who's, you know, whether it's a planner, anybody who's on their dream team, I'm assuming the point is that they've chosen that person because they trust them. They enjoy their talent. They respect their talent. So for me to just kind of understand what feelings and emotions are most important to the couple is more important than trying to reproduce or copycat another image. And once I kind of understand where those feelings are coming from, then I'm able to sort of produce similar images in my own style, with my own aesthetic. And I've found that couples really appreciate that more, because that's why they've chosen to work with me in the first place.
Completely. And I think that those moments, again, let them happen, because they will. Like, you'll have your own
version of
whatever that photo is. And
Exactly.
just make sure that you're working with someone who you can kind of nudge and say, hey, we're having this moment, or my best girlfriend is going to be coming over. She's not a bridesmaid. Like, cue your photographer into what's happening behind the scenes, but then let that moment happen.
Right. Yeah.
The one thing I will say that I'm always doing, that if you aren't working with a planner, delegate to whether it's your mom or your maid of honor, is just kind of cleaning up that room, because if you are doing hair and makeup in your hotel suite, it will be trashed. So if you want those beautiful kind of art directed, Pinterest worthy shots, they are not happening with garment bags and dry clean hangers and like nipple covers all over.
No, well, and it's so funny because when we talk about the timeline, and again, I like to spend a certain amount of time with the bride in her suite while she's getting ready. And in my mind, that time not only includes all of the images that I need to capture, but a good 5 or 10 minutes just cleaning up the space so that when she's ready to get into that gown and her bridesmaids are ready to help her and her mom's ready to help her, or when she's ready to put on those shoes, that the space that we've chosen with, of course, the right lighting that I like, is a picture perfect, beautiful, clean space. And there isn't just sort of like, loose ends and sort of just complete, stuff kind of like hanging out all over the place. It can be a mess.
It can have someone who's helping you clean that up. Or I often say, if you're getting ready in a hotel, think if they have a meeting space where you can set up hair and makeup and kind of recreate that environment that isn't your suite, and then kind of move up to the suite when people are a little bit more photo worthy.
But I think that's the thing, like a great photographer I think would go the extra mile to kind of, clean up a nice space for you, in the side of your room, and just say, this is where I think you should get ready. Because I always walk into a room and I see, I look at light, like where's the light coming in that I want to capture images in the way that I want to produce them. So, then I'm like cleaning out and clearing out a beautiful space where they can kind of do their thing and get those sort of Pinterest type images. But again, I've done it in my own way.
Perfect. Very important. And I think, speaking of light, I think the other thing that I'm always cognizant of for our planning purposes is sunset timing. So as you're going through your day and working on your shot list and kind of orchestrating things with your photographer, where the sun is going to be, especially if you have your heart set on outdoor photos, is something to kind of keep in mind, and your photographer will help guide you through what that means. But they might make an alternate suggestion to you based on what they know the light is going to be like at a certain point in time. So that the light is the secret sauce to photography, I have learned.
Absolutely.
Yep. Take the lead from your photographer and trust their experience there, for sure. Benita, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Was so helpful.
Well, cheers.
I hope everyone got a lot out of it, and hopefully you feel that you're as in love with your photographer as I am with Benita, and you're going to have a fantastic day. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.